my Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1702 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Yes, we are open. An award-winning podcast from Monaris, hosted by FOTM Al Grego, Toronto Maple Leafs baseball. I'm throwing out the first pitch at Christie Pitts this Sunday at 2 p.m. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. Building Toronto's Skyline, a podcast and book from Nick Aines, sponsored by Fusion Corp Construction Management, Inc., and Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Joining me today, making her Toronto Mic debut, is Donna Ramsay Anderson. Welcome, Donna. Welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Oh, Donna. Do people sing that to you?
Sometimes.
Okay, I hear LeRoy, so we need to introduce everybody else in the room, Donna, and then buckle up because we're going to get to know you. We're going to hear some of your music. I'm very excited about this.
We are too.
The gentleman that you're with, not the gentleman to your left. I'm going to get to him in a minute.
What's his name again?
Who is this gentleman who's off mic? So if we hear noises in the background, it's him. Maybe we should get him a mic. But what's his name?
His name is Carl LeRoy Anderson.
Is he the LeRoy of Donna and LeRoy fame?
Absolutely.
It's not a different LeRoy. Could you imagine?
He's maybe the third or fourth incarnation. Yes, I've had a few. Yeah,
It's sort of like what Lassie, right? Like they keep making Lassies with different dogs.
Like Lassie, come home. Yeah, LeRoy, come home.
And am I right? This is the Donna. Like I just want to make sure I'm correct because I have a slight. Well, the other gentleman in this room will explain to you. I have a slight country music blind spot, but this is the Donna and LeRoy from the Tommy Hunter Show.
Yes, if anybody remembers that CBC television show, not Donnie and Marie, but Donna and LeRoy.
So I would argue anyone over the age of 45 is well aware of the Tommy Hunter Show, which maybe 40.
I guess, well.
I'm lowering it. Did Andy Wilson at Zoomer remember the Tommy Hunter Show?
And Andy and Jane said she used to watch it from...
Jane would remember. You know what? There's a gentleman in the room. I got to introduce him right now because I feel like he won't talk until I introduce him. He is well known to the FOTMs listening because he's a valued and beloved FOTM himself. Welcome back to the show, Banjo Duncan Fremlin.
Oh, thanks, Mike.
You can talk now.
It was building up.
I was going to do 90 minutes of Donna and then say, oh yeah, and Banjo was here too.
Yeah, back off, Duncan?
At least you got a mic. Poor LeRoy didn't get a mic.
That's okay.
Is he going to beat me up afterwards?
That's maybe a good thing. That's maybe a very good thing.
Before we check in with Banjo Dunk and then we learn more about the legend that is Donna Ramsay, now Donna Ramsay Anderson, of course, but let's crack open at Great Lakes for LeRoy on the mic.
It's good he's back there because he can't drink a beer and talk at the same time.
So LeRoy is drinking it's the light lager from Great Lakes Brewery. It's a great beer. Let us know what you think of it, LeRoy. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, but it's time for a beer. LeRoy's
it's 5
ready to go.
o'clock somewhere.
It is superb.
You got a good voice, Donna.
Hey.
It's superb.
Because he's off mic, LeRoy says that his Great Lakes beer is superb. So LeRoy, good news for you is I have a couple of 4 packs of Great Lakes beer on the table that you guys can divvy up and fresh craft beer going home with you.
I want the shirt you're wearing.
Okay, so
off your back, Mike.
I would give it to you, Donna. This is a hoodie that is from Great Lakes Brewery.
I got to get me one of those.
So now that because Banjo Dunk's here, I got to look him in the eyes when I ask this question. Will you be at TMLX 19 on June 26th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Great Lakes Brewery at 30 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard in South Etobicoke?
I'll have to check my schedule. It's possible. I think we're in Petawawa. What day of the week is that?
It's a Thursday.
Yeah, so it's possible.
I'll take possible because if you did come to TMLX 19 on June 26th and you're invited, LeRoy, you're invited, Donna, it's going to be catered by Palma Pasta, so you'll get delicious Italian food.
Oh, our fave. Yeah.
Okay.
I wish we could be. Now
Where will you
tell
be
us,
in
why
the
didn't you
world?
book this tour a little later, Duncan? Jeez.
Dunk, come on.
I've been clamoring to get to one of these things.
Well, this would be a good one. We're going to hang out.
I have a song. I wrote a song, a hockey song that I've never played publicly, but I wanted to debut it at one of your big events.
Well, that would be June 26th.
Yep.
You could be there.
I'll try and
try to make it. Try to make it here. Have you, Donna, had any contact with Tommy Hunter lately?
Oh, yes.
Like, how's he doing? Because
He's
I
doing
think
pretty
there's
good.
some Canadians are happy to learn he's still alive and well.
Yes, 88 years young. In March, he turned 88 and lives in London, Ontario, he and his wife. And we were there, in April. We did a show over at a place called Purple Hill along with Duncan and Douglas.
Douglas
And-
Cameron,
yes.
FOTM Douglas Cameron.
That's it.
Mona and the Children.
So we went and visited with him, and he's not, of course, entertaining or anything like that anymore. Kind of taking it easy.
Well, he's 88.
But had a good visit with him. Yeah.
We can't all be like Brian McFarlane, right, Dunk?
No, nobody's like Brian McFarlane.
Long may he run. Shout out to Neil Young.
120 books or something.
I thought you could say 120 years old.
No. Well, that too.
I'm not going to tell you how old I am.
So, Donna, may I check in briefly with Dunk? And Dunk, you're co-hosting this show, so
Yeah.
you can chime in whenever you want. But I have a couple of quick questions. I've been waiting for you to return so I could ask you about the Elbows Up initiative that you seem very involved in. Could
Yeah.
you speak to that for a moment? And then I have
Yeah.
a question about a recent Toronto Mic'd episode.
Well, first of all, I'm so blessed that you're on board with this. You were one of the first you and Charlie Angus. I still think that's one of the most important podcasts of the year.
I just got pissed off, and I literally wrote FOTM Charlie, and I said, we need to talk. And then he said, he was in town for the agenda. He said, and just like you guys, we'll talk about how you couple up your visits here. But I said, I need to talk about this because I'm pissed off.
He's become our Winston Churchill in a way. He's really leading the way and inspires all. Who's the other? There's Angie Dickinson. Is that her first name?
No. You're confusing people. You're talking
who's-
about the Dragon's Den woman.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, but she also is.
See, if she
very
was an
vocal.
FOTM, I would have that name at the tip of my tongue.
She will be. We'll make arrangements for that, but I think she'd make a great guest. But
I would
think,
love it.
I just think it's more important today for people to speak out, even though it's awkward and it's not necessarily the Canadian way. And we get complacent, as Charlie said on that podcast. That's our biggest enemy. But this threat is not going away anytime soon. It's just as
No, he made a silly comment on his whatever it's called, Truth Social, just this week. He made a comment about how we're considering some offer as if Canada's for sale,
Yeah.
like as if we'd consider any dollar amount to join the United States of America. And full disclosure, am I right that the lovely people that are LeRoy and Donna, or should I say Donna and LeRoy, you guys live in the United States, right?
No, we live in Calgary, Alberta. We've
Okay,
been
how
there
long
for
have you
8
been?
years.
8 years. Okay, my
Yeah.
data is old.
LeRoy's home province, but we were in Nashville for 26 years, and we left in 2018 to come back home, and all LeRoy's family is out there, so it seemed to be the place that we wanted to go to be sort of semi-retired.
Arlene Dickinson, not Angie Dickinson.
Arlene, right?
Okay, sorry.
Right.
Sorry, Donna, but if I didn't
No,
get
it's
that out,
okay.
I was never going to get that out. And we'd get angry emails about how could I not know the name Arlene Dickinson. But so you're back in Canada because you're from the Sioux.
Born and raised in Sault Ste. Marie, yes.
Okay, well, welcome back. We're glad you're back. And it doesn't
Thank
make for that awkward moment now when we talk about elbows up here. But last question for Banjo Dunk before we talk about your life and times, Donna. I did an episode earlier this year with a member of Kids in the Hall. Did you hear this episode?
I think I did. Tell me.
Scott Thompson?
Oh yeah. Oh, Scott. Yes.
So you didn't. You commented on my public Facebook
Yeah.
page. So I feel like this is a fair game for me to. Because I know you listen to many an episode of Toronto Mic'd.
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself a fan?
Yeah. Oh, of course. That's you're my main guy.
I love it. Love hearing that. You still play hockey?
I do, but I've just mentioned that Scott is one of the worst hockey players I'd ever seen.
Scott Thompson?
Yeah, he got his brother plays on our team, the Jokers, with Tyler Stewart and Sean Cullen, etc. And so Scott, one day in Sudbury at a fundraiser that we had, I think it was Sudbury or London. Anyway, we do these fundraising games, and Scott volunteered to play with us, and he was a superstar, so we raised some money, but he was an awful hockey player, and he pissed me off that day. I mean, he was. I thought the reason I sent the message to you was that I thought he wasn't taking this threat seriously enough, and I'm just calling people out, Mike. I called a guy out at hockey a couple of days ago. So he had an American flag on the arm of his sweater, and I said, take that sweater off. You don't have to wear that sweater. It's just it's wrong. It's just this is not the time to wear an American flag in my hockey game. Thank you very much.
So were you able to get through Scott Thompson, or did you have to bail?
What do you mean? Oh, I didn't.
Like, were you able to get through the episode, or did you need to bail?
No, I bailed. I got upset.
Because you felt like he wasn't taking the threat of annexation by the United States seriously enough.
Correct.
Okay, that's fair. I think you missed a great episode, but we don't have to agree on...
Oh, I heard a lot of it, Mike.
Okay. I wanted to get you on the record, finally, that the great Banjo Dunk, not a fan of the Scott Thompson episode, even though I've gone on the record as saying it's one of my top 5 episodes of all time.
Well, it got you on to
You got me on CNN.
Yeah, no, exactly. So come on, man. A little self-serving there.
But before I got on CNN with the ep, it was an all-timer. But I value your opinion. You're a beloved FOTM. So tell me your... playing with Donna and LeRoy?
Okay, first of all...
Because then I want to dive into Donna's life and times.
Well, Donna and I go back to when we were 6 or 7 years old, because she started singing on local TV in Sault Ste. Marie, and I was this little hillbilly 20 miles outside the Sioux in our little 14-inch black and white TV, and I'd watch Donna sing at that time, and I was a bit of a singer myself at the Quantum Music Festival, so I was riveted. I can't say that I was in love with her at 6 years old, but I wanted to do what she
LeRoy's
did.
Putting his he's gonna choke you out. I see him.
Mike, LeRoy's an old man. I can take him.
Oh, he's pointing down in his head. Oh my God.
Anyway, so for me, I mean, Donna's always, and then I find myself, 20 years later,
now
there
you
I
tell
am
me.
on the Tommy Hunter show with this superstar from the Sioux. So
What a small world.
This whole
It could have been Donna and Duncan. If you'd have told
I
me this
wasn't-
sooner.
No, I'm not that good.
You know what
I'm
I
not
mean?
nearly as
Gee.
good as LeRoy.
You know what? He's got better
Now
hair
he
than
tells
you.
me.
He's got hair.
I can ask because I don't know. I will take a photo with LeRoy by the tree here, but
Grass on a playground.
you can't grow grass on a playground. Why don't we have this guy? He should be on the mic. I will say, LeRoy, when I met him, I said, this man's got good hair.
You got good hair yourself.
See, this is like, you know how when handsome men meet each other and they have this like, oh, we're in the handsome men club or whatever? When LeRoy and I meet each other, it's
Duncan,
like the
what
good
kind
hair
of a
club.
show is this? You
He's
should have told me.
delusional. I didn't tell you he was delusional.
Before we get back to Donna, because nobody wants, they've heard enough Dunk, they've heard enough Mike, they want to hear Donna. But where were you guys earlier today? What media outlet were you
We
on?
went to Zoomer. We talked to Andy and Jane at Zoomer AM 740 96.7, which, I'm kind of part of the family there. Much like this, I come west of Dufferin, and I'm very much at home out
You
here.
got to pair them up. Because last time you were on, and I believe you were on with the great Douglas Cameron,
Yes,
you guys had just come from
Yes.
the same show.
correct. We sang.
And then I had Andy on, and we talked
Correct.
about how we share you.
I listened to that episode as well. Yes.
Okay. Andy and I have, you mentioned Small World Stories, but when I was starting to produce Humble and Fred shows in 2006, Andy was kind of in that group because Andy was working as an intern on the Humble and Fred show. And then he would go on to produce Humble, not Fred, on Easy Rock and what did that become? Boom and all this stuff. So
I love the broadcasting legacy of this place, and having Donna on board, from CJIC in Sault Ste. Marie all those years ago. This is a great fit.
okay, you dropped these call letters, and I want to go back there. So Donna, Sault Ste. Marie,
Yes.
can you tell us about your father?
Yeah, my dad started on the radio in the late 40s. Actually, he was a country DJ in the Sioux for, oh my gosh, over 40 years, 45 years, I would think. Yeah.
This is Don Ramsay.
My dad, Don Ramsay, yeah. And he always used to laugh and say, I've been on the radio so long, I got my first tablets from Moses to play on the radio.
Moses Neimer, that is.
Yeah. Different Moses. I think he was referring to a
It all
different
comes back to Zoomer. Moses had some comments. He was supporting Pierre Poilievre in this recent election.
Well,
is he still in your good book?
Well, we could do an episode on that.
Leroy called him polyester.
But I'm surprised Dunk would even grace Zoomer Radio with his vocal cords, considering owned by the Moses, who seems to want the Conservative Party to be in power.
Yeah, I sent him a long letter after he used CARP, Association for Retired People, to promote a guest.
Poilievre.
Poilievre, and I took exception.
Polyester, I took
exception, not because he invited him to speak. I mean, that's why not? But under the guise of this is supposed to be a non-profit, non-partisan organization.
Because that's not very non-partisan.
And no, it wasn't non-partisan. So
but you'll still go on Zoomer.
Well, of course. I mean, I love Moses. He's fun. I really feel like I'm part of that family. So,
Well, living in Alberta, too, Leroy and I are kind of like rebels. We have to be careful how we talk out there, because we all know Alberta is famously for the other party. So,
And what irks me a little bit, and again, I have to disclose, I'm talking to you from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So even though I do have a beautiful woman upstairs who was born and raised in Edmonton, maybe that gives me a little credence here. But there's some complaints from Alberta about the lack of representation in cabinet, but they didn't elect any Liberal, they don't elect very many Liberal MPs. So how do you expect to have representation in cabinet if you don't vote a Liberal MP? Because, Mark Carney can only draw from his own party.
I know. Well, I don't think Albertans, and I love Albertans. I married one. I love them dearly, and we're very happy to be there and be back in Canada. But I don't think anyone in Alberta would vote for a Liberal, even if it was, Jesus himself. They would still turn against it.
Right.
Did I say that? I might not get back across the border when we fly home. I don't know.
Leroy, I know you can't hear me, but maybe the question's for Donna, but did you marry Leroy for his hair? Yes or no?
Well, he was a pretty good-looking feller, and,
I noticed that was past tense.
I'm going for Katie Lang style.
Katie Lang, another great Albertan. We should just shout out all... You saw Katie Lang.
Yeah, we were at a Canadian Country Music Hall of Fame.
I have a fantasy where Katie Lang comes on Toronto Mic'd. This would be a huge desire.
She would
of
love
mine.
it. She would love it.
I would suggest
You would reach out. You should reach out.
I would suggest, Mike, that you really, I'm not kidding, that you reach out and ask her, because I've heard through my friend Adrienne Clarkson.
Well, get her on Toronto Mic'd.
Well, I don't know if she would, but I'd certainly ask on your behalf. But when we did a 2018 Stomp and Tom birthday celebration, and she was with us on the stage, she came very close to getting Katie to join us, and she had asked Katie if she would come, and she said yes, and then at the last minute she had to change her mind. But I think my understanding is that Katie's a very open and fun person, and would very much consider something like this.
Okay, well, there's hope for me there, and you're going to score me. Not Angie Dickinson. I think she's passed away, Angie Dickinson.
I thought he was talking about the actress Angie.
Yeah, he was, because he had her pin up pictures on his wall of Angie Dickinson, many a man his age. Yeah. Look, the hair's standing even taller over there. He's thinking of Angie Dickinson. Arlene Dickinson is our desired FOTM. Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home on the Angie Dickinson front. By the way, Donna, before I forget.
I know, I'm looking at a beer in one hand and the funeral home in the other. Is this some kind of
Ridley
hidden
Funeral Home?
Here?
We recorded a new episode of Life's Undertaking with Brad Jones from Ridley Funeral Home. We recorded it yesterday afternoon. He took a trip with a Slovenian community, and they went to visit Croatia and Serbia and Montenegro, and it was to the Balkans there, and we talked about it on Life's Undertaking, and it's a great podcast, and that is a measuring tape for you from Ridley Funeral Home.
Well, thank you very much.
So you were daughter Donna.
Daughter Donna. That's how I was known in the Sioux, yep.
Wow, and just for some context, because maybe the name Don Ramsay doesn't resonate with many a Torontonian, but he was one of Canada's radio pioneers.
Yes, he was. And back in the day, on radio, a disc jockey wore several hats. They were, a lot of them had, like my dad, a local band that played. and my dad sang. Oddly enough, he didn't play an instrument really, but and then in the early days in the 50s when television came in, they had a local television show. My dad was also a promoter, and usually 9 times out of 10, the radio guy was the one that artists who were big in the day, and I'm talking country music, would get a hold of. Where could they play up in Canada? And there weren't that very many radio personalities at that time, so he would promote shows and bring artists into town, all of those things.
Oh, you got a Hank Williams story? I feel like Duncan. You sure we shouldn't give him a mic? He wants a mic, I think. No mic.
LeRoy, would you pipe down back
No,
there?
I like the LeRoy back because I can hear it, and then it tips me off because now I can prompt for a Hank Williams
Can
story.
you tell we've been married for all these years? Because
How long have you been married?
One starts a sentence and the other one finishes it. You know what I'm saying?
53.
How many?
53.
53 years of marriage?
I was.
Still,
That,
She's in her 50s. How
that
young
can't
was
be-
she?
I'm only 39. That
That's
can't
impossible.
be possible.
Hank Williams Sr. Tell Donna.
Okay, let's hear the Hank Williams Sr. story, and then I do want to shout
well.
out some of these TV shows like Down Yonder Ranch.
1948 or 1949. I was not in the world yet, but a promoter in the United States called my dad one day and said, "Would you be interested in having Hank Williams in the Sault
Yeah.
Sault Ste. Marie?" And my dad said, "Hank Williams? Oh my God, yes!" You know, my dad worshipped Hank Williams, as so many did back in at that time, and because Hank Williams was a pretty big name. And my
Huge
dad said, "Well,
name.
when would we be able to get him into the Sault?" And he said, "How about tomorrow?"
Yeah.
And my dad
Like
said,
me and Charlie
"Tomorrow?
Angus.
What about tomorrow?" And my dad, so no time. So of course, my dad didn't say no. He said, "Okay, sure, that'd be fine." So they had a date that had fallen through down in Minnesota or somewhere, and so he said, "We'll be able to make it to the Sault by tomorrow." Wow. So my dad just got on the radio later that day and said, Hank Williams is going to be in Sault Ste. Marie at the Gardens, and tickets will be at the door. They were 50 cents. The tickets.
Okay,
And they
I
sold-
need an inflation calculator.
There were so many people lined up to get in that he agreed to do a second show. Hank Williams.
Hank
Senior.
Williams
Hank
came
Williams
to
Senior.
Sault Ste. Marie.
Yes. 1949.
So your dad, Don Ramsay, brought Hank Williams to Sault Ste. Marie in
Yeah.
1949.
And then when Hank passed away in 1953, New Year's morning, my dad went down to the radio station and got the okay from the station owner, CGIC, and said, "Can I go on the air and play Hank Williams music?" Because my dad was just, and every year for, 40 years, he went on the air since then at midnight and all night played Hank Williams music.
Wow.
And one year he brought Audrey Williams and Hank Williams Jr., who was 7 years old, to the Sault to do a show. And Tommy Hunter was just getting started. And he invited Tommy up to do the show. And my dad said there's, not much money in it, he said, because Tommy was on Country Hoedown at the time, just very young, just getting started. And my dad said, "Well, look, I know you're into electronics and all that stuff." So he said, "Well, I've been eyeing up that Macintosh speakers and the amplifiers." He said, if you can arrange to just give me that, he said, "I'll come up." So that's what my dad paid Tommy Hunter with the Macintosh amplifiers.
Well, okay.
1953.
That's 50. That's early days for Tommy Hunter. Long may he run. Okay, I'm gonna. Now that I know how proudly Canadian Neil Young is, and how he's been going to those rallies with Bernie Sanders, and what a risk that is to him, because I got tickets to see him at the Budweiser stage, and he's got to get back home. So it's a lot of people won't even take the risk these days. But I'm just glad I've got a picture of Neil hanging upstairs. And by the end of this episode, I'm gonna have a picture of Donna and LeRoy hanging upstairs by the end of this episode. Maybe our tree photo here. So I'm getting some quick hits, Donna, because I need to be educated. But CJIC TV had a program called Down Yonder Ranch.
Yes.
Just so I have it, archived for all eternity here. Tell me about Down Yonder Ranch.
That was a local television show. all local musicians. Fred Kent and the Northern Airs was the band who was on the show, and
Fine fiddler.
yes, Freddie Kent, and
I had a fiddler over yesterday.
and it was, I guess it started in, I was about, I would say 7 or 8 years old when the show went on the air, and it was on for many years, and booked all local talent. The Sioux is full of musical talent, and this Mr. Fremlin here
Present
is
company
one of them.
accepted? Is that what you're going to
Yes.
say?
And yeah, I used to guest on the show once in a while, and
Okay.
it ran for many years, and it was sponsored by O'Keefe Brewery. Speaking of beer,
Sure.
for many years, O'Keefe
Right.
Brewery. Yep.
Okay, so then you're still very, very, very young here in the Sault Ste. Marie, but you get to go to Halifax when you're 10 years old to appear on Don Messer's Jubilee.
Yes, my when Don Messer would come through the Sioux and do his shows, and that, of course, my dad would always say, no matter who he brought into the Sioux, be it Johnny Cash or Don Messer,
Flat and Scruggs.
Flat and Scruggs, and them, he'd say, I have a little girl that likes to sing. Do you mind if she could get up and sing a song or two with you, maybe to open the show? And everybody back in those days were so approachable and everything. They say, absolutely, you know. So
It's kind of like that today, but only at Toronto Mike's basement.
well, you have to get an act of parliament, I guess, to get close to any artist nowadays. But
Right.
in any event, Don Messer said, I think we need to have this little girl down on our television show. So that was a pretty big deal. You know, I got to step dance with Charlie Chamberlain and sing with Marg Osborne. And Bill Langstroth was the producer of the show then, who eventually went on to, a fine musician and singer in his own right, went on to marry Anne Murray. But that was a pretty big deal as a little girl to be on national television like that. And on that show that was very well revered. I was very humbled by
Dunk,
that.
were you watching this episode of Don Messer's Jubilee?
I'm sure I did. Donna we can't even emphasize how the influence this one.
LeRoy
was
was
it a
watching.
half hour or 1 hour show? Donna, I can't remember, but the entire country listened to it back in the
You know
early
what? That's a
1950s.
very, very good question.
It was a national television back
CBC,
then.
national TV, yes, it was.
Like, we didn't have, what did Bruce Springsteen say? 57 channels, ain't nothing on. Okay.
It was that.
You had to watch the Don Messer, you had to watch the Tommy Hunter show because you couldn't get any other channel.
Black and white.
Yeah, black and white.
Yeah.
It
Black
united
and
the
white
country.
TV.
You had to watch the Pluff family.
I don't even know this family.
Really, another national show, and I think it might be. I don't know the history of it, other than they had 2 episodes. They had the French episode, and then the same staff would
I remember that,
would do
yes.
the English episode. It was the Pluff family.
I forgot about that.
See,
Oh my God.
those stories are perfect for Zoomer Radio, I feel like, because everybody listening to their radio in the old age home is like, I used to watch that.
Are there
show."
no old people listening
I'll
to this?
tell you a
Mike?
funny story about that. I can probably tell this now because God rest their souls. They're no longer with us. But we were down there, and of course, Charlie liked to tip one a few times, you know, whatever. So a couple of backstories. We're at rehearsal, and of course, there's no Charlie Chamberlain, you know, whatever. So Don Messer came up to my dad and said, does Donna know any songs of faith and inspiration? Because Charlie usually did one on the shows, you know, and he says, oh yeah, he says, no, Donna could probably do it because I don't know if Charlie's going to show up. He might be in the bag.
Sure.
So he said, we'll maybe get Donna to sing a song. So I was getting ready to do that, but then Charlie marched in, you know, and he was okay. And then Charlie invited my dad and my mom and I over to his place to meet his wife and have dinner. So we got ready and whatever and went over to the house, and his wife came to the door and said, well, I don't know if Charlie's going to make it. She said he's been having a few. Well, he never did show up for dinner. He was asleep
Right.
at the house, you know.
Right.
So poor
Sleeping
Charlie,
one
but
off.
God love him. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
That's the real talk we're here for. Are you kidding me? Holy smokes. Hey, quick notes from the live stream. So we're live at live.torontomike.com. A couple of quick hits. One is Jeremy Hopkin is there, and he tells us that 50-cent ticket that you referred to earlier would be $6.75 in 2025. So I mentioned out loud I needed an inflation calculator, and
gosh.
J-Ho did the work for me.
Yeah, 50 cents. Yeah.
50 cents. Ali Oop is on the live stream and says, I saw the Plouffe family in Montreal. We Girl Guides went to see it live. So there you go. See, I think today is the day I learned about the Plouffe family, but I'll never forget now. Every time it's referenced, I'll be like, oh yeah, I heard about the Plouffe family.
You'll have to get on YouTube and check out an episode or two. It's really something.
Yeah, I'll have to do the same because I'd totally forgotten about that, Duncan. You're absolutely right.
La Famille. Okay, that's French, right? Okay. I got grade 9 French. I'm like a philosopher. I am, you are, you know. Je suis.
Le tableau noir.
Absolutely.
Un stylo.
Okay, this is going amazing, and I know we're going to spend all this time in the 50s. I have a couple more quick hits here as we bring you up, and I do want to play some music, particularly maybe from Cool Green Waters, and talk to you about what a big deal you were and are, and then we'll get you, well, there's a lot of places I want to go here, absolutely, but I just want to tell you that season 8 of Yes We Are Open is dropping episodes now, and Yes We Are Open is an award-winning. They just won another award. I'll talk to about this with Al Grego in a couple of weeks when he drops by to kick out the jams. But Al went to Regina, Saskatchewan. If you had to guess, how many times do you think you, Donna, and you, LeRoy, how many times do you think you've played Regina, Saskatchewan?
Many, many, many times. Every year.
They had a big, I guess you're a country, but there was a big folk festival I learned about yesterday from the Fiddler.
Yes, and also we played the exhibition there a few times, but also many communities in and around Regina. Because a lot of times our audiences, especially once we joined the Hunter Show, were from the rural communities, you know, like the Melforts and the Prince Alberts and the Saskatoons and things like that. So that's one thing I can very proudly say. We're talking about Canada.
Yeah.
We've been blessed to play in every corner, north, south, east, and west in this country and traveled. So that's one thing that wonderful about the music business. Yep. I've even been to Inuvik.
Okay.
Up close to the North Pole.
Amazing. So I would just urge people to hear the inspiring stories from small business owners in Regina, Saskatchewan. This comprises the bulk of season 8 of Yes, We Are Open. Again, more from Al Grego, the host of that show, in a couple of weeks. I also want to shout out Building Toronto's Skyline and Building Success with Nick Ienes. Nick Ienes has stepped up to help fuel the Real Talk. Before the pandemic, Duncan did the same thing. So shout out to Banjo Dunk, who stepped up to fuel the Real Talk. And then the pandemic blew up our big plans for world domination.
We had big plans, Mike.
That pandemic was such a disruptor. But thank you, Nick Ienes. And the most recent episode of Building Toronto Skyline features Brad Bradford and Nick chatting about affordable housing in Toronto. It's a huge issue, and they tossed around some ideas of how we could, fix that problem. And it's a great episode. And last but not least, I heard, Donna, you mentioned somebody was into electronics, and I was thinking, well, if those electronics don't work anymore, I hope they don't get thrown in the garbage where those chemicals end up in our landfill. I hope these people with the broken electronics go to recyclemyelectronics.ca, put in their postal code, and find out where they can drop it off to be properly recycled. Banjo Dunk, you know this, right? Recyclemyelectronics.ca.
You bet. That's where I go.
That's where you go. Cables too.
Yes. And we all have piles of this stuff.
LeRoy uses them as a belt. He takes his old cables and uses them as a belt.
It's amazing, those things that you just keep collecting them and you wonder, what is this for?
Because you think you might need it one day.
This doesn't work anymore.
No.
They've changed.
Speaking of belts, could I have another beer?
So yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to play. Okay, you know what? I will get you another beer. LeRoy's asking for another Great Lakes beer, but because I'm going to play a song in a minute, and then while that's playing, I'm going to run upstairs.
Just kidding.
Is he just kidding?
I think he is, yeah.
Wink if you're joking. No wink. Wait, are you coming on to me, LeRoy? Come on, be professional. Okay,
It's the hair.
That's the secret.
All right, so quick hit here too. Ernest Tubb Midnight Jamboree.
Yes.
That's a Nashville show.
Yes.
Like, Donna, tell me how you end up there.
Well, my dad being in radio many years, back in the day before there was the Country Music Association in the United States, they used to call them the DJ conventions. And the disc jockey, and of course, present company accepted, I have a soft spot in my heart for every DJ there is. And my dad used to attend them every year, go down and broadcast back. Of course, back in the day, you did it from a phone booth, talked on the radio and somebody held up a mic back then didn't have all this fancy stuff. But to get back to your question, when we'd go down there, of course, after the Grand Ole Opry, came Ernest Tubbs Record Shop. And a lot of the artists would go over there after they'd finish up at the Opry. So one year when we were down there, of course, my dad went up to Ernest Tubb. And of course, like I said earlier, these people were very approachable and said, can I get my little girl on here to sing a song on the Midnight Jamboree? So he said, absolutely. And of course, people were lined up to get on that show, So I was quite fortunate. And so anyway, this one particular year we went down and I was going to sing on the show. So it gets to be about 2:00 in the morning, and I'm backstage there. And this is just a small, it's a real record shop, long, narrow building, but so historical. So finally, Ernest comes up and says, okay, we're just about ready for Donna to get on and sing. What's she going to sing? And so I said, I'm going to do Please Help Me, I'm Falling, because it was a Hank Laughlin's number one hit record at the time.
Okay.
So Ernest says, Hank is going to be coming over a little bit later to sing, and I'm sure he's going to be singing that song because right now it's his number one record. So can you think of another song? So I got thinking, okay, I could think. I was a big Dottie West fan in that, so I thought, okay, there's a couple other songs I could sing. Of course, the band could play anything. So it comes time for me just about to go on, and in walks Hank Laughlin. Of course, this is like God to me, Hank Laughlin, he came right over to me and said, I hear that you were going to sing Please Help Me, I'm Falling. That's my number one record, And I said, I know, but I can sing something else. And he said, absolutely not. He said, I would be honored if you would go on the stage and sing my record. That would be wonderful.
Donna.
He said, I've got other songs to sing.
Isn't that something?
He let me sing Please Help Me, I'm Falling in Love with You. He let me sing it.
I got chills.
So I was pretty honored by that. So that's what the people were like back in the day.
And they're not like that
Very
now?
humble. Well, I think really they are. If you could get close enough to them to say hello.
I think there's a difference between the Canadian star and the American star, where I feel you can still get close to the Canadian stars.
Yes, you can. Yes, I'm kind of really joking.
Okay.
But in a way, yes. And they thought a lot of Canadians back in the day, and I think the majority of American people still do consider us friends. I just think it's the political thing that's happening today that's exactly what it is.
Well, I'm going to quote the hockey playing drummer for Sloan. Control your dogs. This is how he puts it. He's not going in the United States because you're right. There are still many a supportive, American who loves Canadians and thinks this 51st state nonsense is rubbish. But control your dogs, America. This is how he put it.
I have to insert that there are many that I know and that I've heard that think the opposite. They think it would be in our best interest if we were the 51st state. So I'll give them some credit, but I'm not giving them. I'm with Andy on this. I play hockey with Andy 3 times a week.
Because he plays every day.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What about the 11th province? That's what I think would work better.
See, I don't want him. him.
No, me neither. No, who need? No.
Well, I don't want him.
They'd have to. They can't afford it.
It's the him. It's the him that I don't want.
The goal. I don't even have the energy to talk about the Golden Dome.
We won't even go there. No,
we're not even going there. You got me all riled up here. My goodness gracious. Okay, so we are going to talk about for a moment here bittersweet, because you're only 16 years old. Oh, let's hear you.
The taste is bittersweet when your lips meet mine.
Woo! Oh my goodness. I'm going to cut that out and just use that as my intro. Okay.
Yeah, that was my first record. I was still in high school. 16 going on 17.
Signed to Capitol Records.
Capitol Records.
Yeah, Anne Murray and I were signed, I think, within the same year to Capitol Records.
Okay,
tell them the Snowbird story, Donna.
Oh, Snowbird, yeah. Well, we were both signed to Capitol Records, and we were both listening to the same demo songs and things like that. And Gene McClellan was signed by Beechwood Music, a division of Capitol Records, their publishing company, as a writer. And I listened to, back in the day, reel-to-reel tapes, going through songs to learn, and Biding My Time, Snowbird, Put Your Hand in the Hand, all these songs. And I cut Biding My Time and Snowbird. And so did Anne Murray, and we were both on the same label.
Did you cut it first?
Different record. I don't think I did. I think within the same few months I did. And
Did you know she had cut it?
not until actually they were thinking of releasing my album. And then I knew that Anne had cut it. So Capitol made the decision, along with, we had different record producers, to release Snowbird by Anne Murray, and I released a song called Bittersweet. And
Is this her version?
this is my version, yeah, but the rest is history, as
We'll
we
get
know.
back to that. Let's listen to Donna.
That snowy mantle cold and clean. The unborn grass lies waiting for its coat to turn to green. The snowbird sings a song he always sings, and speaks to me of flowers that will bloom again in spring. When I was young, my heart was young then too, and anything that it would tell me, that's the thing that I would do. But now I feel such emptiness within, for the thing that I want most in life's the thing that I can't win. Spread your tiny wings and fly away, and take the snow back with you where it came from on that day. The one I love forever is untrue, and if I could, you know that I would fly away with you. The breeze along the river seems to say,
That story's unbelievable, Donna. So you cut this not knowing that the Capitol also had it produced for Anne Murray.
Anne Murray, yeah. We were both finishing albums. Of course, she recorded hers in Canada here, and I did record this in Nashville. So my version has a much more country feel than hers did. And I was a couple years younger than her as well. So, but that was the decision the producers made. And like I said, the rest is history. We know what happened to Snowbird and Anne Murray.
The rest is history. Does it ever frustrate you? But does it ever frustrate you that you came within a whisker of having Anne Murray's career?
Could have happened, yeah. My Cool Green Waters, which was the title of the album,
right? And
I released Cool Green Waters, got into the top 20 in the United States on Billboard. And so that was
top
pretty
50
good.
pick hit in Billboard magazine.
Yep.
Okay,
and
and
Cashbox or Billboard, I can't remember.
Billboard, I think, Billboard magazine. But I do think that it's worth mentioning that it went to number 1 here in Canada.
Yes.
Cool Green Waters.
Yeah, pretty neat.
So Anne lost out on a song herself. Something to talk about was offered to her, and she turned it down. And then Bonnie Raitt took it, and so it comes around, you know.
Shirley
Yeah,
Icahart,
that song is yes, Shirley
Icahart.
Right,
Such a fine
late great
talent. LeRoy wrote a song with Shirley Icahart for me called "Something in Your Face." Yep, I had it on a second album, I think.
You're gonna find that there, Mike. What a place!
What a guy!
What a podcast!
Fantastic! Can I take you home with me, Mike?
Absolutely. Do we have to go to Calgary?
But there's something nice about you,
I wrote the bridge.
and only time will tell.
You can talk over your song. If you
Oh, yeah, Mike is live.
Your mic is live.
We thought it needed a bridge.
This ain't Zoomer.
You wrote the bridge, Donna?
No, LeRoy and Shirley
LeRoy wrote
did.
the bridge.
Shirley Icahart and LeRoy Anderson wrote the bridge to this song, Something in Your Face.
Well, back in the day, songs could only be so long. You either had to be short enough so you could go to a commercial, have just much time, or only be not over 3 minutes.
Right.
You know, so but the song was too short, they thought, so it needed a bridge.
I just like hearing your voice, Donna.
I was so young then. I sing about a tone lower now. You know how that goes.
When's mine gonna get lower? Don't tease me. I've been waiting.
Something in your face.
Wow.
Ba-ba-da-ba-da. That was recorded in Toronto. That was the LeRoy Bauer Singers in the background.
The LeRoy Bauer Singers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear about them all the
Now
time.
here's the bridge that LeRoy wrote.
'Cause when I'm near you, I can feel the warm glow of your smile. Something tells me that love may be just around the corner.
Yeah, the Lori Bauer singers, they were so wonderful.
Your face that tells me.
Heavens.
And now the bridge
Down memory lane here.
No, that's the whole idea.
Is that a cherry blossom across the room there?
Okay. So here's the story on the cherry blossoms.
Wow.
Okay. So they stopped
They're
making
smaller.
these. Have you heard this?
Yes, I'm eyeing it up. That's why.
For a darn good reason.
Well, you ready for this mind blow? Okay. I am 50 years old. I have never had a cherry blossom in my life.
Oh gosh.
Like, I don't know if maybe the picture I didn't, maybe it doesn't look like my style with, what is that, a cherry in there? Like, anyway, is
this a road we don't want to go down?
there's a talented musician named Rob Pruce, who is was the keyboardist for The Spoons and also Honeymoon Suite for a spell.
Uh-huh.
And now he works on Broadway in New York, but we won't hold that against him. But Rob Pruce bought one of the last cherry blossoms so I could have one while there was still time. But it's still in the box. Like, part of me thinks I should probably eat this cherry blossom and just keep the box in the studio. You know?
Don't
What do you
do it,
think,
Mike.
Dunk?
Don't do it, Mike.
So, Dunk, how many...
It's so sweet.
Okay, so sweet is going to make my tooth ache.
No,
Leroy
it's going to
tells
rot
me.
in your teeth is what it's going to do.
Well, you got to go. You got
They were
to
the
go
thing.
sometime. Okay, so do you like cherry blossoms, Donna?
Well, it's been a long time.
Been a long time.
They were
Jeez.
in a bigger at the time.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they were.
And meanwhile, I love having this chat with you, Donna, while I hear your voice in the background here. But I do have some more specific questions before we get you guys with.
Okay.
Okay, got to get you hooked up to this guy, LeRoy Anderson. Okay.
Okay.
But on our way there, you represented Canada on the first international country music show held in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes.
That can't be true.
Yes. And Stompin' Tom was on that show.
Stompin' Tom Connors.
was on that show.
Was that his only visit to Nashville? Donna?
I don't know,
think-
but
I
all
think
I
it-
know, Gordy Tapp was one of the MCs.
Gordy Tapp and Stompin' Tom.
Beautiful orchestra, and there was international artists on it. And I'm having a hard time remembering. I was just a young.
But you're representing
teenager.
Canada. You're
Yes,
still very
and
young.
Stompin' Tom. And one of the things about that was the audiences were just being introduced to Stompin' Tom, right? And of course, he's out there doing what Stompin' Tom did. He had his board, and he got on there and he's singing his songs about Canada. God love him. And the audiences did not know whether to laugh or to take him seriously.
I could see that.
Because they didn't know how to take him at all,
Right.
So it was a very strange thing. Should we laugh? Is this a comedy thing, or is he serious? And it was quite interesting.
I think
interesting.
I think it was a turning point, Mike. I think for Tom, if this is the event that I was thinking of, Yuri Krejcik, his manager, was there that day, and I think Tom took it quite personally, and that established to a great extent his attitude toward American music in the United States from that point on.
Interesting. Like, because Banjo Dunk is like our Stompin' Tom.
Well, not
Historian.
really, but I do my
really.
Yeah. Okay.
About the incident with the microphone.
Oh, well, that happened a lot back in the day.
Funny.
Well-
The big show.
Well, I went to start singing on that show, and the mic was dead.
Oh,
It was like nothing coming out, and the orchestra's, going along, whatever. So I just put the mic down on the stage and started to step dance.
oh, really?
I didn't know what
You
else.
just-
What
yeah,
the
you
hell
had
am I going to do now?
Okay.
15 years old, and you're down there, and
That's a pro, Mike.
No, that is a pro. Now, speaking of pro, so we are going to get you hooked up with LeRoy here on the Tommy Hunter Show in a moment here. I do want to ask you about the opening of Ontario Place in 1971.
that was a big deal.
You performed at the Forum,
Yes.
the Great Ontario Place Forum.
I still have the plaque at home. I still have it. Yeah, that was a wonderful thing to be asked to do that.
I still miss that venue.
Yeah, I saw coming in, this is the last time we were in Toronto, I still saw a sign for Ontario Place. Have they made it bigger or moved it, or have they done something? Or
If
they
you don't
done?
want to see Ontario Place right now, it's been completely raised. What I mean, there's no trees, it's just flat dirt right now, Ontario
Oh.
Place. It's quite the controversial happening at Ontario Place right now. But there's a wonderful private spa coming in if you want to go to the waterfront and get a spa treatment, apparently.
Oh.
But yeah, so you don't want to see. Trust me, it's in your best interest. You not look. It's sad to see Ontario Place today because I bike by it every day. And I try not to look. It's just, but the Cinesphere is intact for what it's worth. The big ball there is still, the sphere is still there.
Yes.
But the forum's long gone because it's been gone for a long time because, of course, I mentioned I'm going to see Neil Young at the Budweiser stage. Well, that was called the Molson Amphitheater, and that pretty much killed the Ontario Place Forum.
Oh, wow. That's
Long gone.
Sorry to hear that.
But you were there for the opening.
I was there.
Amazing. Okay. So you hook up with some guy named LeRoy.
Yes.
And who is, again, succinctly, who is LeRoy when you fall in love with him? Is he a going concern?
Well, our record producer, we had the same record producer at the time. And his name was Gary Buck, who was also from Sault Ste. Marie. And he was producing LeRoy's album and finishing up my album. I was 17 at the time.
Right.
And he introduced
You're like forever
us.
young. Like we've been talking
Thank
for
you
an
so
hour
much.
and you're still 17.
Don't ever change your glasses. Whatever you do, don't ever take them
You know,
off.
these were $1.25 at Dollarama. I'm so impressed with this price of these readers.
But I was doing a television show in Kitchener, Gary's television show, and I was still in high school. And I heard LeRoy's voice before I ever met him. I was listening to some of his demos and that for his album. Gary said, you should hear this guy. And his wife said, if you're ever in town at the same time, I really would like to introduce you. So fast forward a few weeks, and I was down doing his TV show, Gary's TV show, and LeRoy happened to be there finishing up his album. So Gary and his wife Jean introduced us. And he didn't look anything like I thought he was going to look like. He had a very soft, kind of high-pitched voice and that. And I thought he was going to look more like a John Denver, kind of guy. And here was this guy, kind of taller and a little more heavier set, and all this beautiful dark hair, almost down. He had almost like a Beatles cut hairdo,
Right.
whatever. And I just thought he was pretty exciting. I had a couple of boyfriends in Sault Ste. Marie, and boy, when I got back home, I just said, well, you guys are toast. I've met the guy. I met the guy that I think
Calgary
I want
has stolen your
Yes.
heart.
So I don't know what LeRoy thought about the whole damn thing, but I was pretty smitten. And so that
LeRoy,
was,
did you like what you saw?
Oh my God!
You can borrow Duncan's mic for this one. Hold on, just slide it over just a bit.
I
So
was
just
in the
tell us what you thought of Donna when you were.
I was in the basement of Gary Buck and Gene Buck's home in Kitchener, listening to material for my new RCA album because I was just signed to RCA, and I was listening to songs like "Put Your Hand in the Hand in the,"
Of course.
and Snowbird, and they were all on the same tape, written by the same guy, Gene McLennan.
Wow.
Anyway, I heard this girl was coming from Sault Ste. Marie. And I was down in the basement. She skipped down the stairs with her hair bouncing, the light brown and the freckles, and I lost it.
You were
I mean,
smitten.
I've never been the same since. There she was. The
What
girl
a
of my
story.
dreams.
And
She
that was
just bounced right into my life.
all right. Amazing. Okay, so there
It
we
too
go.
started in a basement, Mike.
It all started in the basement.
All right, so now you two are coupled up. You're married in 1972.
Mm-hmm.
Now, please tell me the Tommy Hunter story here, because for 17 years, you two, as Donna and LeRoy, are part of the Tommy Hunter Show.
Well, we had a band and we're on the road for quite a while. This and the other thing. We made the decision probably in about 1973, 74 to move to Toronto and kind of get off the road. And we became a duo, and we were playing in like little steakhouses and little lounges in and around Toronto. We lived in Downsview then. And before there was the Canadian Country Music Association, there was various other organizations, one of which was called Big Country. And we attended one that was at the Inn on the Park on the Don Valley Parkway.
Right.
And Tommy was the MC. Of course, Tommy had his TV show for about 10, 11 years at that time. And we had guested on the show off and on over the years, so we decided just go over and say hi to Tommy. Him and his wife Shirley were sitting there, and we went over and said hello. And he said, well, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. And I said, well, we're married now. We've been married for about 3 years. And I said, we're living in Toronto. And I said, this is what we're doing. And so he asked us all kinds of questions, and this, that, and the other. I said, well, nice to see you. That was that. So a few months later, the telephone rang. It was about 9 a.m. We'd been playing in a club the night before. And LeRoy answered the phone, and the voice on the other end said, hi, this is Tommy Hunter. And he says, I know it's early in the morning, but he said, get yourself a coffee. I got a few questions I want to ask you. So he called us back about a half an hour later and said, I want to make some changes on my television show. And he said, I've been thinking, since I was talking to you back a few months ago, he said, would you be interested in being known as a duo, like Donna and LeRoy Anderson or whatever?
Yeah.
And he said, if you are, he said, I'd be very interested in approaching the CBC about getting you on my television show. He said, I think it would be a nice fit. You're married. And he said, I know what your background is. And he said, don't give me an answer now. Just think about it, whatever. And he said, just call me back. Here's my number, blah, blah, blah. So we didn't take us very damn long to think about it. We called him later that night. And I said, well, if the offer still stands, we would love to give it a try, And 17 years later, we were still there.
You were there till the end.
Yes, we were.
The program ends in 1992.
92.
Now
and,
the big picture. So the big picture here, Mike, is that they probably saved the show. We were talking about this earlier.
I don't know about that.
Well, no, I mean, he brought you on because ratings were, keep in mind our taste in music was changing in the country at the time. And all of a sudden, he's got a bright, young, very talented couple on there. They've got Al Cherney satisfying the maritime crowd. And so all of a sudden, he's got a much bigger audience because of them. So it's my contention they saved his ass.
I don't know about that. But Al was on the show. He passed away very untimely and very quickly. And that was a very sad time. But when we started, of course, Al was there. Maurice Beaulier, who the keyboard player and the banjo extraordinaire player, present company accepted, Duncan. We're still on the show, the Allen sisters and the Rhythm Pals. We were all like a big family. And then a couple of years into it, the Pals left and the Allen sisters left, and Maurice Beaulier passed away very suddenly as well. So we just kind of soldiered on, and what a deal for us to work with so many of our musical heroes.
Well, it's great exposure for you because this is a national audience, of course, being on the Tommy Hunter Show. And am I right? The Tommy Hunter Show was part of the Nashville network for a few years.
5-6 years.
6 years.
Yes.
And I mean, that makes you known to those damn Americans.
Those fellers down there, yeah. But a great run and got us on Hee Haw and got us to work at some of the big fair dates in the States. And
you were on Nashville Now with Ralph Emery.
Yes, we were, yeah. A few times.
Multiple times. Okay, I'm going to play a little bit of Donna and LeRoy Anderson because I want to, it's my show.
Sometimes on a rainy night, you hold me.
Well, that takes me back.
What a beautiful voice.
It is.
Right, Dunk?
Beautiful voice.
Loving me would only be exist.
This is a LeRoy Anderson song. Did you write this with Cyril?
You can't hear it, though.
I can count on you. You were always there when things went wrong. Through the years we've learned to give, and that's what makes us strong. I need you more than ever now.
I can hear some LeRoy in there.
I look around and I can see they envy me to have someone like you.
Changed keys a lot because
I know you're
a female voice and a male voice don't always sing in the same key,
Right.
Songs aren't always written that way either. So we had to learn to jump parts a lot.
More than ever now, I can count on you.
I don't know about you, Dunk, but I like it when Donna sings along with herself. Like, I just like bring this down and let Donna sing on top of it.
It's a good blend, isn't it?
I like the idea of young, and we're in like 1980 or so for this, okay? But I like young Donna and more mature Donna like duetting together. There's an
You
idea.
do? Oh, yeah. That's a thought.
So Donna and LeRoy record a couple of albums together, release a bunch of singles. Let's shout out Living on Love and I Want You to Wanna Do and You're So Easy to Love. And they all go to number one here in this beautiful sovereign nation of ours. They all go to number one.
Mm-hmm.
You guys get the CCMA award for Top Country Duo in 1983.
Yeah, that was a pretty big deal, yeah. We didn't get out to the awards that year. They were in, actually, as you want to say, they were in Regina that year.
Shout out to
Speaking
Yes We
of
Are
Regina.
Open, an award-winning podcast hosted by FOTML Grego from Inaris.
Yeah, and LeRoy got a banjo award, not that same year, a couple of years later, when it was the CCMA. Yeah, it was back when it was Big Country. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, now here, so when you do end your run on the Tommy Hunter Show, which is like 1992, we lose you for a spell, like a good spell. You're moving to Nashville.
Yeah, when you're 40 years old and all of a sudden what you've been doing for the last, 17, 18, 19 years on the show quits, you kind of start thinking, okay, what'll I do now? This is what I do. And so LeRoy was quite into songwriting then. So we decided, you know what, we've got a lot of friends and we know some folks down there, and why don't we just go down there and see what kind of trouble we can get into. And so we went down there, and we were there for 26 years.
26
we took
years.
a couple of left turns. I became a booking agent. I worked for a Canadian who had a talent agency down there, Mascioli Entertainment, who was representing a lot of Canadian artists, and also Ian Tyson at the time. So
Okay, Sylvia's an FOTM.
yeah,
I missed
and-
out on
and
Ian,
Syl-
but
yeah.
Sylvia is an FOTM.
she's a wonderful gal. And in fact, I do one of her songs on the show, River Road. It's one
Do you
of
know
my
their
favorite
son
songs.
was a member of Look People? Do you know this? So Clayton,
No.
yeah.
Clayton.
So Clayton, the son of Ian and Sylvia, was a member of Look People, which was James B's band.
Oh.
Shout out to the very famous James B, right, Doug?
Indeed.
So I worked as a talent agent for a while for Paul and represented some artists, but I didn't like that end of the business. I wasn't. I just didn't like the scene and how you had to treat people and what you had to do. I was more of the artist. My heart was on my sleeve most of the time.
You're pro talent.
So I got out of that, and LeRoy became a courier driver for a while. Yeah.
You know, you got to do what you got to do, right, LeRoy?
Courier driver. Then I became a travel agent, a full-fledged travel agent, with my IATA card and all of that stuff. Did that while we still performed and sang off and on in the States and in Canada.
Sure.
And then I moved to another call center, and for about, I'd say about 10 years, I was a supervisor in a call center for a payment innovation company. And LeRoy worked in a cytology lab.
What is cytology?
Yeah, that's what I asked. I was a courier.
You got to get by Dunk's mic
I
there.
was a courier for Express Courier, and then there was an opportunity to go with Path Group, which was a budding pathology lab in Nashville, and they became huge eventually. So the courier company I was with was wanting to get a lot of their business. So there was everybody at Express Courier wanted to get over to Path Group because it was going to be huge. So I kept driving by about every 2 weeks, and I'd talk to the manager there of the transportation, and he said, "No, there's no openings right now." And so I'd let a couple of weeks go, and I'd go right back. One day I pulled up. He comes right over. He says, "We just had to let a guy go, and if you want to." So that's how I get.
You were persistent.
Then an opening came to get in the lab. So Donna would say, "It's too dangerous out there on the road, going up these mountains in Tennessee and
Sure.
having to pick up the specimens." So she said, "Why don't you get in the lab if you can?" So came along, and the lady with transportation said, "Yeah, it's in cytology." I said, Scientology?
What's that?
Yeah,
I
not to
said,
be
"What
confused
the
with
heck is that?"
Scientology.
That's
He
right.
says,
No.
That's where Dunk was
You'll be
heading.
learning how to prepare pap smears. For
Oh,
ladies.
pap smears! I was
Yeah.
sure, knowing.
Can we say that on the radio?
Well, it's not the radio. You can say anything you want. Now,
Yes, yeah.
yeah,
They
so
called him that. They called him the Pap Daddy.
Pap
there.
daddy.
That's
then when they
wild. What a wild turn that
When I
story
got
took,
older, I was
Leroy.
grandpappy.
Grandpappy. Okay, because you know where I thought that was going. I thought Leroy was going to tell us the Scientology was hair restoration,
Oh, well,
and that he was not only a work there, but he was a client. See how that was going to go full circle? Okay, so
anyway.
here's the part of the show where I give you one more gift and pump my own tires, I guess, because of something exciting I'm doing on Sunday.
Oh.
And then I want to hear from Banjo Dunk and what's going on with Banjo Dunk and Donna and Leroy.
Yes.
I need all that info. But first, I have a book for each of you. It is the history of Toronto Maple Leafs baseball. They play at Christie Pitts here in Toronto. It's just an amazing experience because you know what a ticket costs you to see the Toronto Maple Leafs at Christie Pitts?
you have to mortgage your house.
No, you don't have to mortgage your house, which is beautiful. You pay $0.00. So on
Really?
Sunday, for example, when the Leafs are playing at 2 p.m., just make your way to Bloor and Christie. You can fill the hill. Of course, this is the pits. They got those great hills. Grab yourself a beer,
Thank you.
get a hot dog, take in some awesome semi-pro baseball, and if you get there early enough, I am throwing out the ceremonial first pitch. Yours truly throwing out the first pitch.
Good luck
at
with
Christie
that,
Pitts.
Mike. I hope it makes the plate.
The Maple
You and me both, Dunk.
Leaf forever.
You know what? I will just lean back and listen to Donna sing for the rest of this episode here. Okay, so
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
go Leafs go. We kind of got us up to speed now. The ongoing history of Donna with some Leroy sprinkled in the mix. Banjo Dunk.
Yeah, man.
How did you weasel your way into the Donna and Leroy experience? Like this, these guys have won. What's that award? I got to get the right name of this award. These guys won the CCMA award for Top Country Duo in 1983, and now you get to play with them. Tell me what's going on.
They're in halls of fame on both sides of the border, so they are the real deal. And we just became friends on Facebook. You know, we had been on the Hunter Show together years ago and lost touch.
You grew
and-
up together.
Yeah, in the Sioux. So Donna's been in my life since I was 6 or 7 years old. So I saw her. We somehow connected on Facebook a few years ago, and I don't know, really. I just had this inspiration that we should do something musically together, and all of our friends were dying, so there weren't many of us left, and Ridley Funeral
Jim
Home was
Carroll.
way too busy.
Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home.
So last summer they were in Ontario for a couple of shows, and they dropped by my cottage and spent a night, and we played some music. Douglas came over, and I thought, Jesus, hey, we can do something with this. So this tour that we're doing starting this weekend is kind of an experiment, and the idea is that if it's as good as the rehearsals seem to indicate that it's going to be, then we'll take it on the road. It's
Where can we see you?
well, here in the Toronto area, you can see us at the Free Times on June 6th, a Friday night. You have to call ahead to reserve a seat. But we're also on June 8th on the Sunday afternoon. We're in Peterborough, and we're in Nobel, Ontario on June 2nd, I think. Is it the 2nd? But the big one is the Sioux.
Nobel is June the 1st.
June the 1st. But the big one is Sault Ste. Marie, where Donna, I found out, it's almost sold out. I just found that out. As I was sitting here, I got the email from the guy saying that there's still a few, but for the most part, we're going to sell this thing out. So this is a big deal for Donna and I to go back home and sing together.
I'll try not to be nervous. I can sing in front of 10,000 strangers, but if there's a friend or a relative sitting in the audience, I'm like, oh, God, I better not screw up.
So can I just give you a little mind blow here? So you two knew each other back in the Sioux, but then, of course, you lose touch a bit, but now you've been reunited. You're going to play all these great dates together. Yesterday's guest, I want to shout out, her name is Anne Lindsay.
Oh, you had Anne in. Oh, my goodness. What
Great
a talent.
Great. And again, I was so ignorant. I'm like, okay, what's the difference between the fiddle and the violin? Like, she plays them both proficiently. And she's like, oh, it's the same instrument. Can I tell you, I don't think I knew that. Like, how did I not know it was the exact same instrument? Yeah, see,
Really?
Donna, you're judging me over there. I can feel the judgment coming from you. But what do I know? Did you know? I mean, you know, because you're a music guy.
Yeah, but why would the general public know that? It's
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm
Mike
maybe
Boone.
I'm dumb.
Mike Boone, general public.
Yeah, I represent the great unwashed, the masses, and we're stupid. Okay, but Ann Lindsay was going to primary school with a young boy. Of course, you're a boy in primary school. I don't know why I would say man. Why is she going to primary school with a man? Okay, but she's with a young Jim Cuddy, and they're friends playing in the orchestra together. And then they have a similar experience where they go off their separate ways, and then they reunite. And Ann Lindsay now plays with the Jim Cuddy band. She's the official fiddler and part of the Jim Cuddy band. Like it's a very similar story that you know somebody in your youth, you kind of go your separate ways, and then you're reunited for like artistic musical purposes. Right?
If there's one lesson in life, Mike, one lesson that we talked about this morning before we were on AM 740 was do not burn bridges. Do not.
Well, I got to write this down.
You never know when it's all going to come
burned
back.
a few in our day. Some were good. Some were good to burn, and some weren't.
But I can't imagine Donna Ramsay Anderson burning a bridge.
I burned a couple.
I can see you burning.
Did you burn any, Mike? Come on.
You know what? I'm a polarizing figure. I got to burn a few bridges along the way.
Well, Duncan and I could even be maybe kissing cousins. Like Duncan is from the outside.
Have you guys kissed?
Family, but down McLennan Way, where my mother was born and raised. Down
the geography
east of
is
the
right.
Sioux. And my mother's family, extended family, first, second, third cousins is huge. My dad was an only child, like I am, but I think somewhere along the line, there's an aunt and an uncle married to another aunt and an uncle, and I think
I'll tell you.
It's okay. It's still legal. It's okay.
Just saying.
I am going to give a quick update on In on the Park. Is that it's reported in the live stream from Jay Ho, the official Toronto historian of the Toronto Mike podcast, that the Inn on the Park is also now mostly raised. It's like a car dealership and some condo buildings now.
I remember the producer who used to produce Country Time. Cy True was his name. He was a famous producer, director, and he used to produce Country Time. And he was involved somehow in the infancy of creating from Big Country over to the Canadian Country Music Association. And very tragically, when there was a fire, a very bad fire at the Inn in the Park, I can't remember what the year would be, he passed away in that fire.
Oh my goodness.
It was bad.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So
sorry to bring you down.
No, you know what?
It's
It's called real talk. It's not always puppies and unicorns and rainbows here. We get serious on this show. But Banjo Dunk, good to see you again. How much time did they give you on Zoomer? That's what I want to know. How much time did Andy and Jane give you on Zoomer Radio?
This time they didn't have. Last time Douglas and I must have had 15 minutes. This time, no, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 minutes.
So 8 or 9 minutes, because I just want you to know I cared so much about Donna Ramsay Anderson, LeRoy Anderson. I cared so much about Duncan Banjo. I'm going to get your name right. Banjo Duncan Fremlin. That we're at an hour and 12 minutes. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest? Anything you want to say about Donna?
There's one thing I'm just looking.
Is this a manifesto?
I'm just looking at her bio, and I know she was hooked up with Hagwood Hardy, and she did some commercials. I want her to sing the theme for "Put Pork on Your Fork." If
LeRoy
she
and I
would.
did put pork on your fork, economical pork on your fork.
And then she sang.
I sang, "It looks like a sunny day. Raisins love it that way." I did a Raisin Bran commercial. And what was the other one for Datsun? The Datsun Spirit's catching on. Did all those with Haygood Hardy and Mickey Irby.
Can you do a Jordan Wines jingle?
No, but I had a few wines last night, I have to say. I don't know what kind of wine it was, but it was going down too easy.
Well, now you got the Great Lakes beer. Duncan, I got to tell you, you and I think alike because I actually took a note on Put Pork on Your Fork. Yeah. This was the campaign, and I found some ads from that campaign, but there was a male voice on it, and I was trying to find this ad of Put Pork on Your Fork featuring Donna Ramsay, but this is for the Ontario Pork Association. But I also did read, and this is my last note here, unless you have any final thoughts. I love this very much. By the way, Donna, thank you for being here, and thank you to the great LeRoy Anderson, who deserves his own episode. What a legend. And, I gave you this much time because I think the world needs to, I feel like this is if it's a blind spot for me, since I'm the general public. And again, I'm born and raised in Toronto, not exactly a hotbed of country music here in Toronto. Like, the only country I ever heard growing up was Kenny Rogers, because my mom loved Kenny. And then you'd hear like a Willie Nelson, and you'd hear like a Johnny Cash. But that was it, really. Honestly, that was it. And I have so much to learn, and I learned so much today, and I'm gaining such a respect for this community and what I missed. But is it true, Donna Ramsay Anderson, that you sang on some movie soundtracks?
Yes. Eric Robertson, who was the music director on the Tommy Hunter show, not originally when we started, but came along a few years later. He, wonderful musician, whatever, and he did a lot of things and asked me to sing on a soundtrack, and I can't. I'm embarrassed
You're
now. I
blanking
can't
on
think
it.
of the name of the movie, but it was about Pearl, and the actor, and it was an American movie, but they filmed it in northern Alberta and in Alaska, and it was called. Oh, geez, I should have done my homework.
You know what?
Mike.
It's your life. They say this is your life. If you don't remember, it's because you
Linda
lived.
Pearl was the actress.
Linda Pearl was the actress. Okay.
Yeah.
So here, on our way out, because maybe I'll start it up here. Let me do this. Okay. Linda, I don't even know this
Linda
actress
Pearl,
actually.
And the actor was.
Oh, there she is. Purl. I had no idea. And I'm just going, and would you remember what year this would have been?
Well, we were on the Hunter show, so it would be after 75 and before 90s. It would probably be in the 1980s.
Okay,
Somewhere
'cause it's
in there.
important before we get
And it was
to
called,
the,
it was about, he flew a plane, her and her father. And he had an airplane, and he used to do all these tours and things up in the bush and stuff. I can't remember the name of the movie.
That's okay.
I'm going to look it up, though.
Well, I'm going to see if I can pull this out just before I do the extra here. Again, LeRoy, it was awesome to meet you. We're going to get a photo by the tree.
Thank you, by the way.
Donna, you were
Mike.
amazing.
Thank you.
What a lovely guest. And I got to give some props to the wonderful Banjo Dunk who made this happen.
I know. Thank you, Duncan.
Great pleasure.
For introducing us to this audience.
I'm going to yell out a couple just names of things, okay? And tell me if any of these resonate. Okay. Secrets, Before the Storm, Undercover, Web of Deceit, Spies, Lies, and Naked Thighs. That sounds like a Banjo Dunk favorite. Holy smokes. Viper. We're not doing In Self-Defense.
No, it had something to do with
Dark
being
Mansions.
in the north.
Okay, that's a good clue here.
North Country, I think it was called.
The High Country.
The High Country.
1981.
That
The
was
High
it.
Country. So if I find this on the wonderful Plex server known as Stella, if I find The High Country, I'll hear your voice
You
in
might,
that movie.
if they're able to play it, back in the day with performance rights and things like that.
Well,
But my name is listed there as thing. At the end of the movie.
end of the movie. Okay, so that's The High Country with Linda
High
Pearl.
Country, that's it. Yeah.
I've learned a lot today. So thanks again, you guys. Really,
you
really
so
enjoyed
much.
this.
Lovely, lovely. Can we come back?
Of course. But don't bring Dunk next time.
No way.
We've had enough.
Come see us, folks, wherever we are. We'd love to meet you.
What website, Dunk?
WhiskeyJackMusic.com.
WhiskeyJackMusic.com. Get your butts over there and see this. All three of you on the stage at the same time?
4 of us. Douglas
All 4 of
John,
us.
too.
Douglas John Cameron. What a lovely FOTM. Tell him about TMLX19 on June 26th.
For sure.
Okay? I know he's been to one before. I want to see him there again. And that brings us to the end of our 1,702nd show. Go to TorontoMike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. Much love to all who made this possible. Again, that's Great Lakes Brewery. They're hosting us on June 26th. Oh, now you owe me a new headset, Dunk. I'm going to send you the
Dunk's
invoice.
had too many beer.
Well, Dunk
He's crashing down the hall.
cracked open all those beers and passed them to LeRoy. I'm worried about LeRoy. Thankfully, he
Can
is
I
not
have
driving.
a beer now?
Yeah, you're taking a bunch to go. Thank you, Great Lakes Brewery. Thank you, Palma Pasta. Thank you, Moneris. Thank you, Toronto Maple Leafs Baseball. See you Sunday. Thank you, RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Thank you, Building Toronto Skyline. And, of course, Ridley Funeral Home. See you all Monday. This is exciting. It's an exit interview for a beloved FOTM. You know him as Steve Paikin. The agenda comes to an end in June. Paikin's going to tell us why, give us the details, tell us what's next for him. Don't miss Steve Paikin's return to Toronto Mike live in the basement, 2:30 p.m. Eastern on June 2nd. See you all then.